Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Weekend Recap. We're bringing you the good, the bad, and the latest inside news this week from all of the prime time wrestling shows that we watch. Monday nights, of course, with Raw on USA, NXT that is already coming to an end of an old look and feel as it'll revamp beginning next Tuesday on the USA Network as well. AEW Dynamite every Wednesday night on TNT. Thursday nights belong to Impact on Access TV. Friday nights with Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. And of course, afterwards, AEW Rampage for 1 hour also on TNT. Before we begin, we want to mention our infamous disclaimer, and it is the following. That everything we say and state is strictly our opinion, and it does not necessarily reflect the views of the platform that we're on or the wrestling companies that we talk about. And now, don't have a cow, man. Well, tonight's show, of course, we're going to do it a little bit different since we're almost at the end of our here. Technically, it is still Saturday, and Jade, what took place at this time 20 years ago, was the events of September 11, 2001. Unfortunately, the terrorist attack that took place in Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania.
Yes.
In what part?
Central Pennsylvania. I forgot the town, but it's somewhere around the central area.
And also
in New York City.
New York City. Can't believe it still feels in a way like yesterday, because never did we ever think that something like this would happen to the United States, to the country that we live in. And unfortunately, all those innocent people that lost their lives to this this moment of atrocity, it still affects people today, but it also tells us that, we can definitely do better as a country and as a nation in order to band together and let everyone out there know that we can definitely be better than we are. We can definitely be more active, more on point, just be on it with stuff, with people that we love, with anything that we set our minds to, as long as, we do it together, we do it in support of helping out one another and just being better. Because you can never know what can happen nowadays in this country, or even outside, elsewhere. You just never know what can happen. So what we're going to do in this episode, obviously, we're going to take a look back at the SmackDown episode of September 13th in 2001 that aired live. I believe it was a Wednesday night, since 11 was a Tuesday.
It was a
Thursday. It was a Thursday live. Technically, WWE at that point, they were getting ready to tape an episode of SmackDown to be aired for Thursday. But with all of this commotion that took place, obviously that turned everything around, and that turned everything upside down for everybody in WWE, and everybody were where they were at, and that was in Houston, Texas. They were going to do the Compact Center at the time, and yeah, that was a critical moment for the people at WWE and what they were going to do for a show. And with after it was all said and done with the attacks, it's like what was going to happen next, you know. So before we actually begin, we just want to mention what was our frame of mind at that time. At that time, I was working with my dad. I was already out of high school, and I was almost close to the year. It was going to be 1 year of me working with my dad. And, we were working at the corn plant up in Summit. And I got to see with my own eyes how hard my old man was working to put the clothes on our backs, the food on our table, and having a home for us to live in, because obviously, we weren't going to be living in, having to survive living apartment to apartment and having to, make it go out of it without having something to look forward to. So my mom and dad, they took a risk. Our parents took a risk in buying a home, buying a car, having other things with hard work and saving up money. So, never did I thought in my wildest dreams that I would actually start there, but I needed somewhere to land, and as far as work is concerned, because obviously college was not in my plans. I always wanted to do college with something that I was passionate about, but unfortunately money was just too steep. So I had no choice but to work, and ended up working with him. So anyway, on that Tuesday, it was another day of work, and I think around 10 or 11 in the morning, when I took a little bit of a break, I was hearing the talk from some of the co-workers that were there from other companies, not literally working for the corn plant. Some were, but then there were others that were working on the outside, the outskirts of it, and external partners, of course. Then I saw a TV clip on the news where they showed the, one of those buildings, I was just in silence because I couldn't believe I was barely understanding what the heck I was watching before my eyes. Supposedly an airplane already crashed through one of the, already this was the second building, but, a little bit before that, the first building, which was what was it called again?
The north side of the Twin Towers.
Yeah, the first of the Twin Towers obviously was already smashed through, and the smoke, and of course then the second one already took place. But I saw the aftermath of that, and how they were still already attacked before it got before it came down, all of it. And like I said, I was barely understanding what the heck I was seeing. But at the same time, it's like, I even asked myself, oh my God, I hope, this person's okay, because before starting work with my dad, of course, I was, or even still at the time, I was volunteering with my old high school to give back to the choir. And I was catching up with almost everybody that was in it before. And I was talking with one of the girls at the time, just to see where she was at, and because I was fond of this individual. I'm not gonna name the person, but I'm gonna keep it as you know uh, this individual as this individual. Anyway, I was catching up with her, and we were talking, and I'd be escorted to where she was doing work, community service at the time, which was not that far away from the high school, and it came to the point where like she told me in one conversation, it's like that she wanted to go to school to New York, and just by hearing her say New York, I already felt this bad feeling in my chest, like if something bad was gonna happen, you know, with her there, if she does decide to go there, and I I don't know why, but I kept it to myself. I should have said something. I should have said, "Hey, don't go. I got a bad feeling," or "I just got a bad feeling," or something like that. Some show of concern, because in my heart, inside of me, I felt something bad. I felt something not that good. I mean, or maybe it was just me, but when I heard her say New York, it's like, okay, like or maybe it's just because I was getting to talk with her a little bit more. It's like, okay, well, this once school year's over, that'll be it. I won't get to see her again. Besides, I only done 1 year of volunteer work, and that would be the last that I would see any of the guys and girls that were a part of the choir. But nonetheless, already moving forward to the following year, already at this point with that event that already happened with the terrorism attacks, that's who I thought of just right out of nowhere. It's like, oh my God, is this person okay? Is she even there? It's like, and there's no way of finding out, what's going on. So that's who I was thinking of at the time. And I guess, I told myself, I guess I'll never know, because, I have no contact with this person. So then it wasn't until years later when, I finally found her on social media, and, and obviously, we catched up, she had a kid, then later got married, and I was happy for her. I was happy with the fact that she's still around, and that, but I never got to ask her if she did wed with her plans to go to New York, or if something else happened. So I never got to that, and I guess I'll never know, because I never asked her such a question. But nonetheless, I'm glad that she's safe. I'm glad she's still alive. I'm glad she's still around. But yeah, that's where I was at the time. It's like, still, I couldn't believe what I was seeing when it aired out on the news of what took place in those three places: Pennsylvania, DC, and New York. Yeah. So, how did you heard of what took place with the terrorism act back then?
Well, what happened was is that I had no idea. I had no idea what was happening, and then one there was, I think it was around 12:30 in the afternoon, where I turned on the news, and then they started doing these coverages at what was now called Ground Zero, and they saw the footage of the planes that were hijacked, that were crossing through the Twin Towers. And I was saying to myself, it's like this is something like you see in a movie. But then I found out that it's not a movie scene. That was real life. Then and I said to myself, and it was like my heart, like me swallowing my heart, because when you see something like that, and when you found out that these sick foreign fanatics with whatever agenda they were manifesting, they take it out on us, on the people of America. It's like we don't understand what was what was the reason, but what was done is done. But bottom line is that the course of everyday American life changed forever since 20 years, and it was a reminder that regardless of what can happen, changes inevitable. That we gotta be prepared for what's ahead of us, and it's like one of the things that we as Americans should be doing right now is finding a way to find a common bond, to say to say, oh yeah, there are things that pretty much say about your people that said, that ethnicity should not be an issue. Sexual orientation is not an issue. Religion should not be an issue. It's like we have to find a way to understand and tolerate tolerate certain people, because pretty much 20 years ago when we saw that, it's like you pretty much put all the nastiness, all the prejudice aside, and we said, my God, how could we pretty much learn the hard way as human beings how fragile, how precarious life can be, and now 20 years later, now we're dealing with another issue. This is a natural issue, for the record, and pretty much said we pretty much have to say to ourselves, okay, from if there's one thing we have to take from 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 20 years, and that is we have to find a way to get to lift ourselves up. But the only way that can happen is we have to do it together. Now is not the time to say, okay, we have to pile on with all this, with all such as violence and the dislike and everything. I pretty much say, okay, to those of you who are watching us right now, and I'm not going to name names, especially for those that I was acquainted in grade school and high school, possibly, and college and higher learning. There's eventually gonna come a time where you say that there's something about you I don't like, but this like aside, it's like I'm willing to lend a helping hand if you're willing. I'm willing to put all the pettiness aside and say, let's not do this for just for us. Let's do this for our city. Let's do this for our state. Let's do this for US of A, to find a way to reach a common ground and say we can lift ourselves up from the dust and start raising again. And thank God, we have a commander in chief that says that we have to overlook certain differences. Differences will exist, but if we overlook those differences, we can make this country great again, like how it was before this the heinous cowardly attack. But right now, all we have to say is, for those of you watching, is like, yeah, eventually comes a time where you're gonna like that person. But if you're willing to make the effort and try to tolerate that person and get along with that person, hopefully within years from now, we can take from what happened 20 years and say that was something that pretty much can change a human being's life, especially a human being that lives in this country. And we could say we have to find a way to see what we can do and better ourselves and this great nation going forward.
Um, God bless uh, the soldiers that have fought for our freedom, for our rights that we use in this country, that are fighting like hell in those wars to make it safely back home to see their loved ones. Um, and this doesn't matter if you represent the Army, the Navy, um, any type of uh, you know U.S. group that believes in this country, believes in what the United States of America is all about, and how we live our lives as human beings in this country. God bless them first and foremost. And I'm talking about the ones that that have gone overseas, that have gone to the wars from way back when to up to this point when George W. was running for presidency, when Rudy Giuliani was the mayor of New York, all the way up to this point where now our current president, Joe Biden, is definitely doing the best that he can, righting all the wrongs that has been done with the old predecessor. And now, we can see a little bit of light shining in our country. But this means that, America's not going to give up. America's not going to let their guard down. And America needs to be ready for whatever's going to come and happen next. God bless the people of New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. Even though it's 20 years later, for all of those families, friends, and acquaintances of the victims that obviously are no longer here because of what took place in those terrorist acts, our deepest condolences. It is tough that you don't have your loved one next to you. And somehow, some way, you're pulling through. But every time 9/11 is around the corner and we can only look back and remember what happened, but we can also learn from it, and we move on strongly, and we move on proud with our heads up high, and we continue to live our lives the way we do it in the United States of America. So from here, we're not gonna continue on. We're gonna take a look back at the episode of SmackDown from September 13, 2001, and at the same time, we're gonna point and review some of the events that are the highlights of this week's shows that we just mentioned, from Monday Night Raw all the way up to AEW Rampage. But this one, obviously, I always look back at it whenever it's 9/11.
Tonight, the spirit of America lives here in Houston, Texas.
And I gotta say off the record, I love Vince McMahon's speech in the beginning of this episode.
On behalf of everyone here in the arena and a worldwide television audience, we would like to extend our condolences to the victims and the families and friends of the victims of the terrorist acts that occurred on Tuesday in New York City and Washington, D.C. Our nation's leaders have encouraged us to return to living our lives the way we normally do. Our nation's leaders have encouraged us to continue to live our lives the American way. They've encouraged us to practice and exercise our constitutional rights. And as such, tonight I believe this is the first public assembly of its size since the tragedy of Tuesday. Make no mistake about what, and make no mistake about the message this public assembly is sending to terrorism tonight. message, quite simply, is that we will not live our lives in fear. The citizens of Houston are not afraid. The citizens of Texas are indeed not afraid. And by God, the citizens of the United States are not afraid. For we are a proud people, proud of who we are, proud of our nation, and damn proud to be Americans. And we will fight. We will fight for our families. We will fight for our rights. And we will fight for our great nation. America's heart has been wounded. But her spirit shines as a beacon of freedom that never has been nor ever will be extinguished. The World Wrestling Federation would like to thank each and every one of you here in the Compaq Center tonight. The World Wrestling Federation would like to thank each and every one of you watching on television. We would like to thank you for the honor and privilege of performing before you here tonight.
Jade, that was a really cool way to open up SmackDown with a heartfelt message from Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And also just last night when we watched the Remember 9/11 episode, seeing the behind the scenes of how Vince McMahon and some of the superstars of WWE, you know, what their frame of mind was once they saw the news on TV, and then of course with what was going to be the plan if they were going to go through with the show. Let's not forget that they were there Tuesday to do a taped episode of SmackDown to be aired on Thursday. But with all of this commotion, now that gives them a whole other view and maybe a whole other plan for them to do an episode right then, because everything was shutting down, you know, in those three places, and especially where they were at in Houston, Texas. So what was there for them to do? They had the crew, they had the superstars, and they were all there, but it was just a matter of are we going to do this, or are we not going to do this? Are we going to pull together or not? So obviously, while everything else was shutting down, baseball games were shutting down, football, basketball, the only sport team in town was the WWE, and they took the initiative to go out on the air and do what they do best, and that was entertain. That way we can escape from reality, and that way they can give us something that we can smile at, laugh at, and it's like, damn, I'm glad that we actually got to watch this. That way we don't have to be in our negative thinking all the time of what the heck was going to happen to us, you know, being over here in Chicago while we think of, you know, what other people are enduring in other parts of the country, you know. And I'm glad that they actually went through with this episode, despite of mixed emotions and feelings. Were they going to perform? Were they not going to perform? And all of that stuff. Let's listen into the next part.
For the singing of our national anthem.
Let's sign off.
Oh, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rambling, though the first in the air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, see does that star-spangled banner yet wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
It was certainly an emotional night for all of us. It has been an emotional week for all Americans and for all of humanity. But we'll be back with action right after this one.
I was actually contemplating whether to do this or not, because I don't know if all of you really care what Edge, or better yet, Adam Copeland has to say about this. What else can be said? And I actually contemplated whether this show was the right thing to do. And once I contemplated it, I decided that as the WWF family, we need to do our job tonight, and our job is to bring smiles to the faces of all your families. And if we can do that, then we've done our jobs. And this can't be forgotten. It shouldn't be forgotten. It never will be forgotten. But if we can do that, then this show was the right thing to do. And I'd just like to send my prayers out to all of those affected.
I couldn't have. Oh, wait.
Well, the thing of it is that what I want to say is, obviously throughout this episode we're gonna, having to play out some parts that you can hear in audio. Obviously, we don't have the technology to be showing footage or anything like that, because the last thing we want to be is ixnayed. But anyway, we're going to be highlighting some parts, some matches that we thought actually helped pass the time for us to be in the best of spirits during a moment like this. Hearing some speeches that actually were highlights and that made absolute sense, during this moment where there was obviously frustration, contemplation, anger, and loss for words, because when it comes to at that time dealing with an issue like this, like a person don't know what to think. A person don't know how to react to something that went on the news, and it's jaw dropping, and it's pretty much it just leaves you with, okay, what are we gonna do from here? How are we gonna move on from this? What can we do to help out? Speaking of helping out, I think also it was played on the news 20 years later that people that were affected by this tragedy in those 3 locations, there were still people that were there that unfortunately they're still dealing with health issues, not being able to breathe right, or just anything health wise while they were there, and they're still out to even endure, this tragedy that happened, because they never thought that they would be, going through such a thing. And of course, there's help out there where, if for some reason, luck hasn't been on your side, or nothing was ever done for you, or at least little was done, but more could have been done. Obviously, there's programs out there that supposedly can help out if you were a victim of 9/11, and you can find out there what are the programs that exist today that obviously wasn't done back then at its proper time, because I heard on the news that supposedly there is something like that. But forgive us if we don't have no actual information, but it wouldn't hurt to find out on the internet to see what is out there for people that have suffered in DC, New York, and Pennsylvania. So there's help out there. We just got to be able to find it, see what's out there, and hopefully it can be, solved for your benefit if you were a victim of having to endure the tragedy of these terrorism acts. So with that, we want to capitalize right now while we still have time. Talk about Monday Night Raw. This past Raw, it was another decent episode, and I apologize we weren't able to cover these last couple of Saturdays with so many things going on. Not to give out excuses or anything, but we were just glad that we even got to cover the four shows here by AEW, the 2 Rampages, the Dynamite, and of course All Out. You still haven't had the opportunity to check us out doing our live reactions to those shows. They are already on they're already on our upload playlist on our YouTube channel. Feel free to check it out. We see that there has been plays for those episodes. We appreciate it a lot that you guys get to check us out, and what our live and initial reaction is. We do it uncut, uncensored, unfiltered, and unscripted. We do it legit. But I believe this past Monday, that belonged to RK Bro once again. RK Bro was obviously on an all high, still the Raw Tag Team Champions, even though there's been a massive challenge with with numerous tag teams. Obviously, we were seeing the New Day, we were seeing Viking Raiders. We saw MVP and Lashley. We saw T-Bar and Mace. Did I forget anybody?
Lucha House Party.
Lucha House Party, that's right. So all of these guys were doing a tag team turmoil match, and it led to the point where the next contenders, or let's not forget AJ Styles and Omos, the former champions that were there too. They were a part of this tag team turmoil. And it looked like MVP and the almighty champion Bobby Lashley, obviously they wanted to get more gold. Bobby Lashley wanted to get more gold besides the WWE Championship. So now they have a chance to prove themselves at Extreme Rules, when those tag team titles will be on the line against RK Bro, the team of Riddle and Randy Orton. It was a really good matchup, despite the fact that in the middle of it, Mason T-Bar obviously was destroying the New Day. And also, another team that we didn't mention, that was Mansoor and Ali. Yes, that's right. So they had to resume from that, so they just cut it up because they were beating up T-Bar and Mace were beating up Lucha House Party. They were beating up New Day, and it was just massive chaos. So obviously referees and all of that, they had to pretty much they had to divide all those teams and get everything back to normalcy. So then they resumed the tag team turmoil match with the last 4 teams at the end of the show, and that continued pretty well, even though there was other things on the card. But I believe that's what stole the show. I don't know if you read to that or if you found that there was another segment that kind of did it.
No, I definitely agree that the whole tag team title picture was the idea that pretty much dominated Monday because after what how lackluster Raw's become, it's like they pretty much need to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and hopefully they could pull something like this hopefully before the year ends.
Yeah, most definitely. So I know, bear with us, hang with us. We're doing a little bit of a different episode since we're remembering after 20 years the events of 9/11, and we're looking back at the SmackDown episode that aired September 13, 2001, after the terrorist attacks that took place in Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania, and New York City. So what we have done so far, we listened to Vince McMahon's opening speech. We listened to the rendition of the Star Spangled Banner by Lillian Garcia. Those are been the highlights of this episode, and that people still remember to this day. And of course, like we mentioned, we've seen the documentary just last night of Remembering 9/11 when WWE came back to do the show and resume their business, and hats off to them for doing so. Otherwise, we wouldn't have forgotten just a little bit about what happened a few days ago from those events, and then we would escape from reality and get some sort of laughter and being entertained by these incredible athletes of the WWE back then. And their roster was just loaded because they not only had WWE, they had WCW, they had ECW. This was just months after those companies shut down, and WWE was the only game in town when it came to sports entertainment. So yeah, their card was loaded, but obviously, whoever felt like they can, be booked and do a match, they could do so. Whoever wanted to speak out and say what's on your mind after what happened with these events, obviously they can do that. So we're gonna be hearing those highlight audio clips of either matches and or pieces that we feel obviously are from the heart. So far, we only heard of Edge, which I felt he obviously everybody. Not just Edge, but everybody spoke out, what was in their heart. But because mainly we wanted to dig up an old videotape of Axis and another old WWF programming that existed out there. Because I used to tape almost everything. I mean, I taped the Axis, I taped the Superstars, some Jacked, some Metal. These were all syndicated shows, whether it be on cable or regular television. But back then, I watched a little bit of everything, got videotaped almost a little bit of everything. But, those were the times back then. And let's see what we got here. The Rock.
First and foremost, I have to say that I can't fathom or comprehend the pain and the suffering and the anguish that the families and friends of the victims are going through. The workers working diligently 24 hours a day, sifting through the rubble and looking for any remnants of life. It's difficult to talk about this. I will say that I couldn't imagine what it must be like to be there. I couldn't imagine if my own family were there. I will offer my condolences and certainly say that everyone is in my heart and in my prayers. And I just want to say to everyone out there, again, to the families and friends of the victims and everyone involved, is to just stay strong. Stay strong.
That was a really touching speech from The Rock, and it is. You can tell by his facial expression that he pretty much didn't know what to say, but he wanted to say something positive. He wanted to say something strong that everybody can, bow to, because even to this day, Dwayne Johnson is a genuine person that we all follow and look up to, because he's a hell of an actor. He's been a hell of a wrestler, a heck of a businessman. I mean, we became a fan of his drink, of the Terramana. The Terramana is the best drink I've ever tried, and I tried, both the gold and the silver. Gold does it for me. I tried the silver, but it doesn't stick much, but I don't mind drinking it again, but gold really does it for me. But yeah, you can tell how genuine Dwayne was with what he had to say at that time. And obviously, 9/11, it's the event where we will all look back and, look at what happened and what happened then to where we are now. And we just gotta keep our heads high and make sure that we don't drop our guard down for anything that happens either out there in the world or even near us, because you can never know what can happen. So now we move on and we talk a little bit about NXT. Like we mentioned, this is already the last run of its kind as the Black and Gold brand. We don't know what to expect next week, except that obviously what happened this past Tuesday is going to carry on to this upcoming Tuesday, the wedding of Index, obviously. Raquel Gonzalez is going to defend her NXT championship against La Güera Loca. That would be Frankie Monet, yes. And I believe there's another couple of matches that have been mentioned. But to open up this new, refreshing view of NXT, obviously, it's going to be, I was going to predict it would fall flat, but now I'm not so sure, because now obviously the new objective for NXT, now under the under the executive production of Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard, and when I hear that they're not going to do it consistently, it's going to be, I guess, maybe the majority of the time, but not every single Tuesday. They're going to start showing out the big guys. They're going to go back to showing out the massive guys. I think that'll make NXT fall flat. I mean, if what made go of this NXT that was run by Triple H was that any type of indie superstar that has made a name for themselves in the indies coming into NXT to get nationwide exposure, obviously it passed the course, and they just want to be. They're challenging themselves to be the bigger stars that they know they could be. And obviously that worked out. But then once you get to the main roster, you just don't know how you're going to be used. There's guys that haven't been seen in days or weeks from when they made comebacks. Like, what happened to Keith Lee again? We only seen him for a bit. Only had 2 matches. We haven't seen him. Karrion Kross already made the jump, and I feel like you're only embarrassing this guy when he was just a lethal son of a gun. Because even I saw from social media, they did from what happened so many years ago to what happened recently. And I'm talking about John Morrison and Karrion Kross. They used to be on Impact. They were having a killer match back then. And now we see them on Raw, and now it's reserved to Morrison squirting water in Karrion's face. Like, really? This is what it's leading down to? Like, come on. So, I mean, yeah. And if it goes that route, then NXT is going to be the lowest effective brand, and it's going to be another third brand ECW flop. So then what's the point of even having NXT? And then they're going to take it back to basics, where it's only showcasing like the introduction of Daniel Bryan or the introduction of so-and-so being and having a WWE superstar represent them. So, and then have, these prospects come up. It's like, okay, we already been through that. We're not going to go back and see something that we already seen before, and then it won't be effective. But that's my take on the new NXT. So what I thought was the highlight of this past Tuesday, unless Jade, if you think that there was one thing that was that you consider a highlight from this past Tuesday that you have seen, what would it be?
If I had to select a match from this past NXT night, and I would say the last NXT is I pretty much call it's the end of NXT as we know it, because it's going to be different beginning Tuesday.
Right.
I think I found the tag match plausible that night with Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch since he returned. It's like pretty much it's been months since Burch was on the sideline, and he wanted to give as like the same one give his group back. And once he returned with Oney, it was like they were trying to get back up on the horse, and last Tuesday they pretty much tried to knock it out of the park in the tag match. So pretty much it's like saying that for me that was the sign saying that the NXT that the WWE universe started knowing and loving sadly is nothing but a mere memory, because it's like once you go to Tuesday you start seeing a different NXT, but probably that vision of NXT might not be to the universe's liking. And yeah, there will be some good matches, there will be some good moments and storylines or whatever. But overall, by my system, the direction of the show will be downright horrible within the course of time. But if I want to take anything out of this the last NXT, to me, what appealed was definitely the main event tag match.
What did it for me was definitely the match with including in the indexing, Johnny Gargano versus LA Knight. This was the first for them too. This could be something in the works in the future. These guys are still around for this new, refreshing rebrand of NXT, because I believe LA Knight's the way to go. Johnny Gargano is one of the headliners of NXT to this point. And they had a really good match. I mean, a lot of in and outs back and forth. And, of course, with the inclusion of Index, since this was already the last week before the wedding of Index, and we're seeing how Gargano and Dexter Lumis can go hand in hand if they could just if Gargano can set his differences aside for his future, what I would like to say, future son-in-law, and that way they can coexist. And obviously, LA Knight, Gargano, it was a good kind of a twist and turn angle, so to speak, and seeing how they can just do their action in and out of the ring. And it was a really, to me, it was a plausible match. I really enjoyed it, and having to see how the dynamic would be with, of course, Index being a part of that whole thing. So as we continue now, we're going to listen into what Chris Jericho had to say at that time, right after the incidents have already took place.
To be quite honest, I'd rather be in New York City going through the rubble and seeing what I can do to help right now. But since I'm not, maybe we can help in a different way. Maybe we can begin with ourselves, and maybe we can learn from this and become a more peaceful nation and a more peaceful race in the long run by being a little bit nicer to each other. I think it's one thing that we've learned from this is that we never know what's going to happen tomorrow, in the next 5 minutes, the next 10 minutes, and maybe above anything else, maybe tonight, hug your loved one a little bit harder, or give him or her an extra kiss. Be a little bit nicer to a stranger on the street. Be a little bit more kind, a little more gentle. Like I said, if anything else, our fate and our destiny lies in our hands now. Americans, we're not perfect people, and we never claim to be perfect people, but we are good people. And the people that did this are evil people, and it's really put some things into perspective. I mean, like for me, the things that you read or used to read in the history books that just seem like stories from the Pilgrims coming over to the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I and II, Korean Wars, Vietnam, Gulf Wars, you really feel how real it is and how so many women and so many men have fought and died for freedom. And that's something that will never stop in this country, because we are Americans and we will fight, we will die for our freedom. And it brings to mind two sayings that are very famous and been around a long time in this country. One of them is, united we stand and divided we fall. Well, we have not fallen, and we are more united than we will ever be. And the second saying is this: be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. And I personally cannot wait to see those responsible get it.
I really says a lot, of course, on one side from Chris Jericho, to be kind to one another and just give a little bit of extra love to whoever's around you, who you have in your household or who you have in front of you, whether it be your family member or friend. And of course, Michael Hayes talking about, what you hear from what we read in the history books as kids, with all those different wars. It's like, stories that you never thought that you can only imagine have taken place so many years ago, a long time ago, centuries ago. And now, where it's like then we became a part of history, and as another war has just started, even though technically it concluded now, but you can never know, it can happen again. So just having to hear that, it's like, yeah, we have been on those history books. We have read about those wars. We have read on how people have lived and died for so many different things, for freedom, obviously the top of the list. And it's just incredible, to hear those speeches again. It's like, it makes you think of so many things that a person can only think and feel when something like this actually hits close to home, and you never expect that you would ever be living that type of feel once it's already happened. Now we're going to hear from Lita.
I don't know what to say about something so devastatingly evil. That could even make a difference to anyone. So I try to delve below. I've got this layer of numbness over me, and discover the emotions that I have, and they're sadness, anger, fear, helplessness. It's like all in one. And so we start to look for answers. Who would do something like this? Why? What are they trying to accomplish? We don't understand. We start to watch and get some of the suspects, the motives, for an event like this, but what are the answers solve? It doesn't change anything that's happened. And I've watched the TV ever since Tuesday morning, like I'm sure everybody else has, and the only thing that's changed is become more of a reality. And all I can say is I've never felt anything like this personally or on a national level. I would never have the audacity to say that I do know what to do in a situation like this. But on a personal level, whenever I have a problem, large, small, of any level, it always begins with stopping everything and taking a deep breath. So tonight, I hope that the entertainment that we provide for you can help you kind of relax and get your mind off things just for a short time, so that you can relax, maybe start to take that first deep breath.
And that's cool. And now I think we should definitely go on some entertaining match because if you remember when we did saw the episode, and then of course when we saw the replay on Access at the time, there were only just so many very few matches that were entertaining. Not to say that the whole card wasn't entertaining, but there was only some things that could be so entertaining and make us laugh at times that could actually help us really forget what was really going on the outside while these guys were bringing the entertainment to us, to our homes, while they were doing it in Houston, Texas. And I believe this was the unveiling of Christian's theme at the time once he broke away from Edge to be part of the Alliance. It's like a dramatic cornball opera theme. It's like, wow, really? This is Christian's theme? Like, maybe this is the time of at that time. I said maybe okay, this is good for now, but I'm pretty sure you'll get a better theme later on. Like if it does get more heelish, because he's kind of comedic heelish at that point. Once he broke away from Edge.
Greetings to all my fans in Houston. Now I know what you're all thinking. Was that not the greatest entrance you've ever seen?
I guess the phone
it was literally raining goldage. Which is so appropriate because soon I'll have gold of my own. When I win a certain title, a certain intercontinental. Let's say it. The audacity of the man. Actually, the word was temerity, but I digress. And there's my teacher, Chris Jericho. What a WWF superstar with this man continues to soar from their mindset. And this is going to be Jericho and Christian one-on-one. It'll be a great matchup.
This is Y2J, not the Chris Jericho of now. Obviously, those are two very different people in Jericho's career and timeline of his wrestling career.
The Compact Center here in Houston. Actually, I know what all these people are thinking. They're thinking, Junior, would you please shut the hell up? But as far as your ring entrance goes, wow, I guess that is pretty cool. It's just like a real life opera. And what a great opera song you have. I love the lyrics. Christian! Christian! The jackass of the year! And no one is going to remember your entrance tonight. But they will remember your exit. Christian! When you leave the ring after receiving a true blue bona fide Y2J beating that you will never, ever forget again.
Well, I gotta cut it off from there, at least audio wise, but we're still watching the match. And yeah, like we mentioned, that was Christian's new ring entrance of the Christian soap opera theme, which is hilarious. But the way they introduced it so it was just funny. It really was. It was entertaining, and them having their one-on-one match afterwards. Obviously, they kept on with the fact that it's WWE E versus the Alliance in that match. Even though, obviously, you know, with everything that was going on in the world, kind of shaking things up, and it's like you're still trying to concentrate on your job and provide entertainment nonetheless. But once we're going back and forth with that match and stuff, we might as well talk about Dynamite that took place this Wednesday. The aftermath of All Out. Obviously, All Out was a successful pay-per-view yet again. I still believe that All Out will be known as AEW's version of WrestleMania, because that's how it's been. It's how it got started from way back when, 3 years ago. The only difference from this year's All Out from previous years is that, yeah, there were surprises. We got to see the debut of Ruby Soho for the Women's Casino Battle Royale. She was successful. She won, and she became #1 contender for AEW Women's World Title shot against Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And even her entourage got to see what Ruby Soho was all about. She had her one-on-one match against Jamie Hayter, and she was successful in defeating her. And then, of course, led to a 6-women tag on Rampage. And I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, but just like I predicted it was going to lead to that. We'll get into that once we talk about the Friday slot. The biggest powwow to end All Out this past Sunday was obviously the addition of Adam Cole, now representing the Super Elite. I don't know why they didn't resume calling the Super Elite when they should have. And the arrival of Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon. Obviously, that's another one right there. He's given us the tip off of seeing the dream match that everybody in pro wrestling wants to see. Bryan Danielson going against Kenny Omega, to see who is truly the best out of these two wrestling marvels in this day and age and this generation of wrestling. So we can't wait to see how that goes down. Darby Allin had a successful match. Well, he had a very good match with CM Punk, but CM Punk, after 7 years, he proved that he still has it. Now what's going to be next for him? Supposedly Team Taz has volunteered, because Punk has mentioned the members of Team Taz in some internet radio interview or some internet interview that obviously Taz got aware about, and obviously he was pissed off. So maybe we might see Punk do that. And since they were in Cincinnati, Ohio, they did a great rendition of Innovation to Jon Moxley, one to Brian Pillman Jr. But these were the outcomes for Moxley. He had a match with Minoru Suzuki. It was a oh my God. It's like going through a brick wall. Moxley was trying to go through a human brick wall, and Suzuki, I mean, he was no joke. He was legit. He was as tough as nails. And I've seen matches with Suzuki. They were like, oh my God. It's like he is the biggest bar that you could try to get over. And Moxley, with all of his might, with all of his power, with all of his attitude, and all of his belief that he can beat the son of a bitch, he did. And Moxley gave it everything he had, and he defeated the undefeatable and beat Suzuki in his own backyard. When it came to Brian Pillman Jr., MJF had the audacity to cross that line and start talking trash about his family, his father, his mother. My God, the son of a bitch. The no good piece of shit. I mean, my God. But we know that there's going to be something in the works for them. It got started in his hometown. Supposedly this could be a major push for Pillman Jr. Hopefully that is the case. I mean, he has busted butt in AEW ever since he arrived. He had his one-on-one with the return of Max Caster on Rampage. I will get into that for the Friday night slot when I get into that. Of course, Dante Martin went against Powerhouse Hobbs. Dante Martin was on fire, but unfortunately, Hobbs was just too much for that young kid, and he showed why he is indeed the powerhouse. The Dark Order is only sinking lower. Now it's a house divided. We're seeing the Dark Order Hollywood versus the Dark Order Wolfpack. Yeah. This isn't going to work for me. I already seen that story one too many times. If I want to see that angle, I will go back to watch Nitro on Peacock to see how the NWO got divided. But then again, obviously it's a little bit different, but it's like, yeah, we've seen the formula, but obviously it's a little bit different. The only thing that I'm looking forward to is that there is a leader that will stand up and grab the reins of the Dark Order and go where they should have gone before this whole fallout. Obviously, some guys are still not over the fact that Hangman left. The other half was already okay with it. It's like, okay, this is what he wants. You got to honor it. And then there's conflict with the guys in Dark Order. So hopefully that house gets settled. We saw Malachi Black at the top of the show going against Dustin Rhodes. It was a good match, but at the end it was kind of like there were some things that weren't grasping so great. It was kind of like a lag out maybe, especially once Malik Cole Negro was going to do his spin kick, and it didn't even connect it to the head. It just connected to the shoulder. And you still get the 1, 2, 3. But nonetheless, within 2 weeks, obviously, Cody's going to come back. There is going to be a match. There is a plan in place for Cody once he comes back, obviously, to go against Malachi Black. We're going to stay tuned to that. Obviously, there's been a lot of good things in this episode. Obviously, we're talking about it all. It'd just be hard for us to even actually point what was the one thing that that really was a highlight for Dynamite. It's really hard because, even we forgot to mention already, the Super Elite was already coming down. Adam Cole was there with the guys talking about why he sided with them, because obviously the history that these guys have had with each other for so long, why Adam Cole, a good time he came into the fold and decided to join AEW, why Bryan Danielson decided to aim for the Elite, because he wanted to see how elite they really are, but he's not going to go against everybody. He's going to go at the top of the food chain with the current world champion, Kenny Omega. And but yeah, the entire show, it was good. That was pretty much it, So that's what we can definitely say about Dynamite. And after a very successful pay-per-view all out, if you guys haven't seen it, check it out. Our live reaction is already on YouTube. It's been there. Feel free to check it out. Also, our live reactions to the 2-in-1 package of Rampage and Dynamite from Chicago, the 2 shows before All Out, it's already there as well. Feel free to check that out. Thank you guys very much for watching those episodes and also subscribing as of late on our channel for all the old school wrestling videos that I've uploaded over the years. It's still going on strong. Also with what we've been doing here with Wrestling Weekend Recap, with the live reaction videos that we've been doing lately. You guys are awesome. We can tell you that you don't know how much we appreciate it. You just don't know how much. We continue with this special rendition of the Wrestling Weekend Recap, remembering the 9/11 incident from 20 years ago. We're looking back at SmackDown with the highlights of superstars making their speeches, some of the funniest segments that we found entertaining in this episode when it came to having to distance ourselves for a little bit of what took place at that time. Now we're going to listen to Taz and what he had to say on that evening.
besides the Pentagon and the plane that went down outside of Pittsburgh and all the bomb scares in New York, it's scary for me right now to be here in Houston and be this far from my family. My parents live in Staten Island. My wife and son, I'm just worried, because of all these bomb scares. I just want to be there to protect them and be there with them. And I'm not. I got to do what I got to do, and I'm here, and I miss her, and I miss my son. And these people who are responsible for this, they're going to pay, and they're going to pay hard. And I don't know who it was, the president or one of these senator people, somebody said, we're going to bring them to justice. Well, to me, that's a load of crap. Don't bring them to justice. Bring them down to their knees, to their stomach, if they're not breathing. You got to fight force with force, and that's just what they did. And I don't know when I'm going home, but it'll be in New York. That's where my home is, and I can't wait to go home. I don't know what home looks like now, so.
That was a really emotional piece by Taz. Obviously, he was talking about his son, Hook, who now we are familiar with in AEW. Can't imagine how old Hook was at the time to even grasp on what happened back then in New York, when, his father's not even there to explain, to even be there with his son and his wife. I mean, everybody was on a different mindset of expression, of emotion. I mean, it was just everybody had their own piece to say, and obviously we were playing the ones that we found can be highlights, because once we already saw them on air, we also saw them again on an episode of Access, which is what WWF was playing at the time on TNN. It was a really good show. Hopefully, maybe that might get added to Peacock one day. I don't know if they would ever get on some of that footage. We'll find out later on. Maybe we'll notice that by surprise within a month or two, because obviously Peacock has already uploaded everything. They said by August we got the majority of it, and then some. We're seeing some old school home videos that they already uploaded to the streaming services that we haven't even touched yet. So. But yeah, obviously the 9/11 Access episode, normally it's hosted by the coach and Trish Stratus, but on that evening and that Saturday, it was a special hosting by Michael Cole and Al Snow. If only would have dug up that videotape hours ago, we probably would have played it, and still we would have still point out what we found were the highlights that actually entertain us, the speeches that we heard that obviously were highlighted from SmackDown towards Access, and we're highlighting them now because, after seeing that episode so many times, we still remember what was shown, what was highlighted after witnessing what happened with the terrorist attacks. And now we're going to hear what Bubba Ray had to say that evening.
The one thing I did want to say is that there's an old saying, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. And yes, a lot of people died, but you can't kill America. And you can't kill American spirit. And somebody's going to pay for this. And I hope it's soon.
Okay, now we're going to get to the real fun part here. This segment with The Rock, Shawn Stasiak, Stacy Keibler, it was hilarious, and I can't stop having to see it every single time that I watch this episode and not laugh, because it was just that hilarious. It was entertaining. I mean, and they couldn't have done it better. They really couldn't have done it better. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, he was pulling everything out of his hat to make sure that the crowd in Houston, Texas that night, and everybody watching at home, were getting a laugh. They were cheering. We got to burst out laughing. I mean, it was just a hilarious segment. Hats off to him. Hats off to Shawn Stasiak, Stacy Keibler. You know, they put the segment really, really good. I mean, it was awesome. This is one segment from back then of that episode that I would always rewatch again and again and again and again because it was just that good. It was simply entertaining. Okay, so let's listen in.
Finally, The Rock has come back to Houston. Now, seeing as this is a very special night, and The Rock has come to Houston to have a great time.
Always does.
And seeing as we are live on The Rock Show, live on SmackDown.
And it says it's live.
The Rock is issuing a challenge to anybody in the back who wants to go one-on-one with a great one. Who wants to go one-on-one with a great one and get a piece of The Rock?
Who's going to accept this challenge? Somebody's going to jump on it, I'll tell you.
Oh, it's not going to be me.
Lord, I hope not.
Well, stop poking me in the ribs like you want me to get up there or something.
Rock pissing like a caged lion.
Yeah, why don't you? Oh, here we go.
Well, look at Sean Stasiak and Stacey Keebler. Thank you very much. Mr. Tiffany challenge Stasiak and Keebler. Does it matter? I'd love to see where it's at, Brett. I don't care.
Here we go.
Stasiak, we're like one man down here.
Now, of course, the reason for that is Sean Stasiak obviously has been staged.
He's not worried about like The Rock was saying. If there's anybody back there who wants a shot at The Rock, come out right now.
They put Sean Stasiak as the how do you call it, the comedic relief for this moment, for that moment in time.
Eric too.
What are you saying?
My goodness.
Yes, I'm a proud member of the Alliance. Before The Rock was so rudely interrupted, one more time. If there's anyone
The Rock means anyone.
back there who wants a shot at The Rock, come out and go one-on-one with the great one. Well, maybe if The Rock would stop sidestepping Stasiak.
And Stasiak has been through so much before this event. I mean, he's been running down opponents, even though he's the one who gets run down by accident. I mean, like, what's up with this guy?
What's the matter with you? What are you doing? Every single week, The Rock sees you knocking yourself out. And tonight, you come running down twice, and twice The Rock threw you right over the top rope. Do you like that? Huh? No, you don't. Does it feel good when The Rock throws you on the top rope? Huh? No, it doesn't. It's embarrassing, isn't it? And it probably hurts. Now listen, honey, just relax. You and The Rock, we could talk like two adults, and let's talk about something that everybody enjoys.
At first, when I heard him say that, I'm like, I wonder what.
Let's you and The Rock talk about pie.
I thought you could say my commentary.
So Sean Stasiak, do you like the pie?
You're like, what type of pie?
Absolutely not. I hate pie.
You must be a cake man.
Well, everybody knows The Rock likes pie.
Yep.
Houston, Texas loves that pie. And you say you don't like pie, so dare The Rock say it. You don't like that strudel, do you?
Oh, you know. I gotta go that way.
Oh, hey. To each his.
He was to say to each his own, but I think the one opinion that counts is
Now, what about you up there, honey?
Stacy Keebler.
You like the people's.
So it's like asking an innocent girl.
Hold on, let The Rock.
Now look at her.
Hold on.
She does. I think maybe
Yeah,
you've gone away.
her facial expression says a lot.
One more time. Look at The Rock. Do you like the people's.
Strudel. See, her face glows.
Strudel walker.
Excuse me. I want my WCW title shot now.
Back
Back to reality, of course.
Oh, you are going to get your WCW title shot now. That WCW title means everything to The Rock.
Somebody means a lot of these fans here in Houston as well.
But before we officially begin, why don't you shake The Rock's hand? And then we'll have the WCW title match tonight.
Seal the deal.
And now, let The Rock officially welcome you
to the Lone Star State. Yeah, that's what I don't even recall. Did the bell even ring in the beginning? But at this case, it doesn't even matter. The entertaining part we already enjoyed.
Patriotic crowd here tonight, and rightfully so, here in Houston, USA.
I love that moment. I mean, like I said before, that segment really made me laugh. How Sean Stasiak was obviously the comedic relief around that period of time where he was just bashing himself through. I remember we bashed through that old what do you call it? The night set in Regal's commissioner office. The armor. He just dropped on the floor, and then he did other things, but then obviously around that time he just get tossed by The Rock twice over the top rope like nothing. It's like, okay, you're no competition to me. Why are you even coming out here? Like, I can embarrass you easily, and he just did that. And at the top it all off, did the Rock bottom 1, 2, 3, and yeah, you had your time shot, buddy. That to me will always be the most entertaining segment of this special episode of SmackDown. I can always look back at that, laugh so much, but also enjoy, the other incorporations of it. Like Stacy Keibler was there. She got asked the question. She smiled. She glowed, and all of that good stuff. So I mean, that was a really entertaining angle for that one. So we're gonna continue with this episode, and as we remember, looking back from 20 years ago, 9/11, what happened back then, and of course, who stepped up to the plate as far as entertainment, and that was obviously the WWE. Hats off to them for doing so, just so that we can escape from reality a little bit and just dive into the entertainment that we love so dearly, and just want to, laugh a little bit and entertain ourselves, a little bit. So that way we can put on pause what's happening in the world for a moment, and just dive into this 2-hour slot that was live, not pre-recorded but live, because obviously what was supposed to be a taped episode to be aired on Thursday turned out to be a live episode indeed, while the WWE crew was still in Houston, Texas. Now, what we're going to hear next is what Ivory had to say. And to me, hearing Ivory, what she had to say kind of choked me up, because what she said obviously was from the heart, was from the soul, and I became a fan of Ivory way long before all of this, because I mean, to me, out of all of the divas, besides Trish and Lita, that were obviously the most popular ones amongst the rank of divas at the time. But to me, Ivory, I felt like she had experience. To me, she was beautiful, gorgeous, whatnot. I mean, she stands out in beauty, but she also had brains, so to me, Lisa Moretti was a really cool human being in her own right. If only I would have had a chance to meet her way back when, but I'm glad that she had her time. She's officially a Hall of Famer now from, I think, when did she got a Hall of Fame? A couple of years ago, maybe 3.
Yeah.
So she's finally where she deserves to be. And we got to see her become women's champion numerous times. But we're going to dive into what she had to say that evening. Like I said, just hearing her kind of choked me up, because obviously, her speech to me, it was heartfelt. Indeed it was. So let's listen in.
First of all, I just want to send out our prayers, everyone here at the WWF, the talent, the crew, the creative staff, and the McMahon family. We want to send our prayers out to the victims of this travesty, to the families of those who perished, to the survivors for strength, and also the rescue teams that are still hard at work. But I want to speak to the young Americans of our country, the children. I don't want you to be afraid, and I don't want you to be judgmental. I just want the children to know that there are far, far more good people in this country, in this world, than there are bad. America is made up of people of all creeds and all religions and all different beliefs, and that's what makes our country so wonderful and so diverse and so free. And as a country, we are going to embrace this tragedy. We will embrace it and remember it, and its devastation and its cruelty is what will challenge all of us to become a stronger, more connected human race.
How about that? I dig the beauty of Ivy's words and how she put it, but yeah, her message was strongly to the young boys and girls that were seeing what the heck was going on in the world at the time, because obviously that left them with so many questions if they were at school with the teachers, or or even coming from school, or even if there wasn't any school, coming early with their parents. I mean, we didn't know how it was all going, with understanding what the heck happened at that time, with what took place. And now I believe what was the speech of the moment, or at that point, was the strongest, because the way this individual presented itself, it was an emotional roller coaster, but it was right to the point. And the crowd was behind him. We were behind him. And it's like, yeah, like, damn it, that's what we wanted to hear out of the entire evening. Not to put all the other speeches to the bottom of the totem pole. No. Everybody had different things to say. And obviously, John Layfield, who played Bradshaw at the time, this was pre-JBL. I loved Bradshaw as that heavy hitter in the APA. Loves to drink beer, loves to kick ass, but right here in this moment, he really bellowed out everything after just seeing what he saw on television and what the president said, what the political people have said, and now he had to sum it all up, his feelings, into one take. And boy, did he define it right to the nitty-gritty. Ready to hear it?
Yes.
I know I am.
I have heard and I have seen of cowardly acts that have happened before. The extermination of the Jews by some maniac in Germany. The bombing of a federal building in Oklahoma City by some maniac. And now some maniac has attacked America, attacked innocent men, women, and children, husbands, fathers, parents, all because of some religious belief or some other motive that he has. These people had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with you. We're running this show tonight because we're going to show you that you cannot break, you cannot even bend the fiber, the backbone of the United States of America. There's going to be some critics. There's going to be some critics that wonder why we run this show. I want to make this perfectly clear. Go to hell. We're doing the show because we love America. This is all we had to give you for tonight is this evening. If I had to, I'd give my life readily for this country. I have relatives who have done that, who are buried overseas, who are buried in many different places. I would do the same thing because I love this great country. George W. was one of the greatest governors of the state of Texas. It's time he will become a great president. You guys who are out there, we're going to find your ass. We're going to make whatever country's hiding you into a stinking parking lot. God bless this country. God bless this great state already. And God rest the sorry son of a bitch that did this. We will find him.
And with that, we're jumping to the next match that included the APA, when they faced off X Factor, the team of X-Pac and Albert. Because obviously with that won the people over that evening with what Bradshaw had to say. But like I said, he wasn't. Obviously, it was kind of like an emotional roller coaster for the speech. It felt anger, it felt passionate, but it went right to the point. And his speech, you cannot put it under any level of expression to what he felt and had to say. And obviously, like I said, they capitalized on Thursday. They were the first sports entertainment group that publicly had a coming together in order to block out what was already experienced, several days ago at that time.
Certainly speaking from his heart. All those remarks and remarks you've heard tonight were not scripted. They were not a teleprompter. They were meant for the hearts and for the souls of these men and women who compete in sports entertainment.
then obviously APA will go down as one of the baddest combinations ever been put together in all of WWE history. They were a really good team. I don't know whose idea was it to put them together, but they were a memorable tag team. I was behind them because obviously they were ass kickers. They were brawlers, man. And especially when it came to them brawling in the bars while they were drinking, damn, man, for them it was no walk in the well, in a way, I think it was a walk in the park, so they might as well get free beer or whatever. And then X-Pac, man, they used to be a three-man duo or a three-man trio. But then once the Alliance came up, Just Incredible went back home to ECW and Paul Heyman. So that only left X-Pac and Albert, just them two, as a tag team.
Use that size, and that'll build you to move around. Did you just say barbecue sauce? I love barbecue sauce. I'll get the club you don't have no calories. And Albert did find nothing canvas there.
And then it looked like a quick match too. Not really fast, but not really quick, but it's like nothing like the quick matches of now. But like back then, it's like, yeah, we're into do an ass kicking match, and you know we might as well do it, get it over.
You would be big in Oklahoma. For what reason? We could ball. Easy. I like the top on the kettle black. Oh, no, that's not there by. Here you go. TJ's talking about leg.
Oh, spine buster.
Never mind. Man, that
was one of the quickest spine busters that Farouk has ever done.
That Texas adrenaline really through his veins, trying to get some.
There was just something about Bradshaw, his clothesline from hell, man. I mean, just pretty much the fact of how he delivers it, man. It's just deep impact, and that's what I like about him. You know, that he's got that finisher at his disposal, and that is easy to deliver. Just knowing where to aim it, just like that. Whether it be Bradshaw from APA or even JBL, that is his successful finisher. I don't know where that would be in the top 20 finisher column. Maybe not one of the quickest or best, but hey, to me, I mean, it's effective. You just gotta know where to aim it. Because even at one time, I don't know if it was on Confidential or some sort of an interview where he explained the clothesline from hell and how it gets delivered. Supposedly at some part of around this area, just aim it really hard and the person goes down. So, but yeah, that was a entertaining match. I mean, it was not a squash, but it was somewhat of a quick match, and we knew that after Bradshaw's speech, it was going to be a victory for the APA. As we continue, we only got three more shows to review. That would be Impact, then leading on to, Friday Night SmackDown, and then finally AEW Rampage. And we're still doing this this special here as we remember 9/11 from 20 years ago. Where we were back then, the three cities that were affected, who stepped up to the plate and decided to give entertainment when everything else was shut down. And of course, that was WWE. So we're looking back at that episode of September 13th, when technically they were supposed to do a taped episode to air for Thursday, but obviously since they were in town already days ahead, they might as well stick around to do a live episode of SmackDown that week. So hats off to them for doing the right thing and doing what they felt that they were supposed to do in order to entertain their fans. So we look back at this. I look back at this episode every single year, regularly around this time. because 9/11 will never be forgotten. But we also look at who stepped up and capitalized on doing the right thing and saying, hey, this is how we move on with what we're here to do, and that's to entertain you guys. So now we're going to listen into your favorite wrestler, Olympic gold medalist, Kurt Angle.
I just want to say that my heart, my thoughts, and my prayers go to the victims and their families. All my life, I've always wanted to do something special to be considered an American hero. And after winning the Olympic gold medal at the Olympics, some people would consider me to be an American hero. But after watching this terrible tragedy, now I know who the true American heroes are. They're the police officers and the firemen and the doctors and nurses and the paramedics and all the people that stretched out their arms to help the victims and their families. They're the true American heroes. They deserve a gold medal. Or better yet, they earn the right to be called Americans. It's true.
I recall that time where we're trying to lend a helping hand. All the organizations were ready to go to work. Like, what is the American Red Cross? What is the Salvation Army? And all these organizations? They were busy. They were busy, with all the blood donations and trying to help the victims with the clothing donations, and possibly providing some sort of sustenance on that day that could pretty much people just came together. Organizations came and said that what could we do to lend a helping hand? It's like that, and that was what it was all about back then. It's like, and in the aftermath of such a tragic travesty that took place, is that we everybody just banded together and said, what could we do to lend a helping hand to all the victims who lost their loved ones, to all the policemen and all the firemen, all the doctors and all the paramedics, because everybody was just there at Washington and the Ground Zero in New York, and especially at Pennsylvania, to see what could we do to lend a helping hand, just like the fellow Americans that we are.
Yeah, I mean, hats off to all of them who has been in that motion to help out their fellow human beings, to see who were still underneath those rubbles, who were still gasping for a bit of air, to know that they can make it through. Like you said, doctors, nurses, paramedics, medical assistants were that really came out there and lend a helping hand. Those are the real heroes. Also, the people that extended donations, whether it be money, whether it be blood, whether it be clothing, whether it be perishables, anything that could help out the folks that obviously were in need. Hats off to them. They did what was right for a moment in time like that. Just any help at that time was enough, to help them through the hard times that they were facing at that point. And as we continue this episode, like I mentioned, we're gonna jump into Impact Wrestling, and we just watched that just last night because we didn't get to it early on a Thursday night. There was a lot of excitement for that as well. The episode of Impact from Thursday night, there was a lot going on in the air. Obviously, there was some alliances. There were some still grudge matches. There were matches that we already seen twice, and obviously we were seeing them for a third time. I think what did it for me, I mean, there were a lot of things that really, I liked the episode in general. But I think what did it for me to anticipate for next week's episode of Impact was obviously what the transition of the 10-man tag and who was going to be on the side of Christian Cage, who was going to be on the side of Ace Austin and Madman Fulton. So they went to those key players, and even some key players decided to step up and wanted to be a part of a team because their nemesis are on the other side of that team if they're going to be a part of it. Like, for example, Ace Austin already has Madman Fulton. He stepped up and asked Brian Myers if he could be on his side, and obviously he agreed. So he needed 2 more guys. So obviously, as the night still kept on extending, then we saw Christian Cage. Christian Cage started asking. So indeed, he asked some good guys to be a part of it. Before we get into the last 2 guys, do you remember who he asked first?
Josh Alexander.
Josh Alexander, who was on an all high, still being the that champion that he is by defending his X Division title every single time whenever there's a challenge, because he wants to be consistent. He wants to be that that champion that works hard to defend his title every single time. Like I mentioned, he wants to build that legacy that he is one of the greatest X Division champions of all time. So obviously he accepted graciously. Do you recall anyone else that he asked?
I think he asked Chris Sabin.
Chris Sabin, former X Division champion, former TNA World Champion. He accepted as well. So that's already 3 on his side. And we finally get to see that he asked a duo that is playing like the odd couple right now, because one says he doesn't trust them, but still, any way, shape, or form, he's going to be there for him no matter what. And that's Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan. So they're playing this odd couple really, really good, because it's like, I don't want nothing to do with you. And then when something happens to Eddie Edwards, here comes his savior, Sami Callihan. And you got to accept it. I mean, even though you don't trust the guy, but he's there to save your ass. You know? So having to see that, and then they didn't agree right away. Well, Sammy has, but Eddie Edwards told Christian straight out, if he's in it, I'm not going to be a part of it. But then afterwards, when Ace Austin and Madman Fulton were in the back doing a backstage interview with Gia, then that's when W. Morrissey and Moose, this new holy alliance that was formed just last week, they stepped up and said, if Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan are going to be on that team, it's automatic that we're going to be on your team. And Ace Austin had no issue with that. So that is his team. That's already his complete team, his 5 guys. But, of course, that led to the match with Eddie Edwards and Moose for the main event. And Eddie Edwards won, but still, W. Morrissey, Moose were not done with Eddie Edwards. Then all of a sudden, all these guys that were going to be on their respective teams, then they all came out and did something on the outside. But then that resumed back to Eddie Edwards being back in the ring, brought in by W. Morrissey and Moose. And just when things were about to go bad to worse for Eddie Edwards, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Sami Callihan comes in, and he came in with 2 baseball bats and decided to give one to Eddie Edwards. It's like, okay, now we got something here. And they proceed to use the bats on W. Morrissey and Moose. So then we got a pack of home run hitters. So now we have something exciting for next week. 10-man tag, and this is before Victory Road, where the main event will be Christian Cage defending his title against the number one contender, Ace Austin. So, Team Cage, Team Austin, 10-man tag next week on Impact. That's what I believe was the highlight for Impact for sure. I don't know if you agree to that or if there was something that really stuck out in your mind as far as last Thursday's Impact.
Well, for me, what stood out was the bunkhouse brawl between Carl Anderson and Rich Swann. Is like
I think that match too.
Both halves of these tag teams pretty much gave it out at each other, and especially since Rich was determined to get redemption for Willie Mack, since the Good Brothers practically incapacitated him. They pretty much went through all around the ringside, and Rich pretty much had like eyes in the front and as well as in the back of his head. No, they could send not one side of both Good Brothers, and pretty much they pretty much had to they had him like running ragged, because it's like when you got Carl Anderson in the ring or going down as well, and then you got Luke on the outside practically distracting him, keeping Rich from diverted, and so he loses focus. And that was pretty much the game plan of the Good Brothers, is like to pretty much make sure that Rich Swann loses focus in the match. It pretty much was good, but the way how they started bashing each other, they started using the chairs that they were bouncing, that they were slamming each other on the outside. They broke in the plywood, but in the end, it was the Good Brothers who emerged victorious, because I say Good Brothers because Carl Anderson got the victory, but had not been with Luke, then, and pretty much on everybody's mind is like, if Rich is hurt, hopefully he's not out longer than Willie Mack is. But I think that to me was the one match that stood out from last Thursday.
Damn you, big lung duck. With that said, we're still continuing on with our look back from 9/11 from 20 years ago, and our look back at the SmackDown episode from September 13, 2001. And now we're going to hear from Lance Storm.
I've spent the better part of the day trying to come up with the right words. Wasn't going to do this unless I could find them, but I've realized that there aren't any. They don't exist. I've watched the news, heard the attack on America. Things like this shouldn't happen in the U.S., but things like this shouldn't happen in the world, and it's an attack on the world. I'm not an American. I don't live in this country, yet this affects my life. I'm a husband. I'm a father. And from now on, every day I step on a plane to come to work, my wife, my kids, they're going to worry about me. Every day I'm not home to tuck my kids into bed, kiss my wife goodnight, I'm going to worry about them. Make no mistakes about it. This isn't an attack on America. This is an attack on the world. It affects us all. And just a very sad day that I don't think I'll ever forget.
That's touching from Lance Storm. Obviously, he's been in ECW, wrestled for WCW, WWE, and yet he never thought that something like this would happen in the world, but indeed it has. And now that he's far away from his loved ones, he can only fathom that something worse can take place, from what happened, back then. And thank God, nothing worse ever came, except for, as far as taking Bin Laden down and other wars that have followed, years after. But yeah, every superstar at the time, they all had something to say, at least the ones that wanted to speak up, and really wanted to get their piece out, just get it off of their chest. Jade, by the way, there was a special guest that night. Do you recall who that special guest was that we only heard of that night?
I don't know if it was a general or a corporal. His name I forgot his name, but he was there and he was somewhat of a fan, and he said that that pretty much that's what the body of America is like. Whenever you get knocked down, you find the spirit to get back up.
Well, we're gonna mention this individual's name at the end, but even I felt that him speaking this piece and how he felt obviously also made a difference, and he was also giving a kudos to WWE for them being the ones to step up and entertain the folks in Houston, Texas, because obviously for that week it made a difference. So let's listen in on that.
Hi, my name is Mike Thornton. I'm a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. I reside here in Houston, Texas, which is a great city and a great state. And it's a great place to live in this great country of ours, America. I'd like to thank Vince and the WWF for coming forward and being the first sports group to stand up and say, hey, we're not going to let this terrorism act change our way of life. This terrorism act is what it is a way of fear. As Colin Powell said, we got to get on with living, and that's what it's all about. And Vince McMahon and the WWF is doing that right now today in Houston, Texas. So I'm here in front of you, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, and with the help of people like Jim McIngvale, Mayor Lee Brown, and the other leaders of Houston, Texas.
And that was Lieutenant Commander Michael Thornton, who was live, got the front row seat to one of the best shows that I think he will never forget. But also, he had a front row seat for the match that we're about to watch next. And that was a match that I thought would definitely do a lot of great heart palpitations for the guys, but especially for the girls as well, as they see their favorite divas collide into the ring. And that was Lita, representing WWE, going against Ivory at the time when she was a part of the Alliance.
Certainly a great American there. The Congressional Medal of Honor winner sitting in the front row here tonight, Michael Thornton. 4 tours of Vietnam. 4 women's contests is scheduled for 1 fall. Making her way in Lita. First the man is sitting front row. Wouldn't you want to be front row when Lita and Ivory got on? That's a great American right there, and we appreciate Mike Thornton being here with us tonight. Proudly wearing the Congressional Medal of Honor. He was a Navy SEAL and again survived 4 tours of duty in Vietnam. And representing the Alliance, Ivory. Ivory and Lita, both former WWF Women's Champions. No titles on the line in this matchup, Paul, but certainly a lot of pride as it relates to the WWF and your friends in the Alliance. And not only that, but who doesn't like to see 2 women roll around the mat? I'm not griping. And there's no rumor about you and Ivory. You're right, there are no rumors about me and Ivory. True. I didn't say word, to be quite honest with you. As a matter of fact, I kind of appreciate it if you'd start a rumor about me and Ivory. Ivory trying to get an advantage, but it's reversed by Lita. Still to come. Kurt Angle's going to take on Rhino. Great matchup, 1-on-1. Nice hard back takedown by Lita. Not to mention 6-man.
Yeah, say one thing for sure. As far as Lita and Trish Stratus, who originally came in as LAs, and they probably never thought that they would get a shot for them to actually become
Ivory, a very talented
be
for the Alliance.
wrestlers. And they have perfected moves in their entourage. I mean, in their repertoire for over a short period of time. They did pretty good for us.
Ivory, simple early there. But,
like I said, I don't know why. I think Ivory is somewhat unique, even though she already had years of experience in the wrestling.
Then actual demonstration in the ring, which is what
I believe before coming to WWE, she started with
Nightmare takeover got leading the
And I don't know if she was anyone before Glow, or she was mainly in Glow for a good amount of years.
She's spicy.
Oh, she's more than just spicy. And notice how Ivory now using her weight on Lita, cranking back on the gym lock, making Lita fight just to get back up. Besides that, Ivory looks great in other things.
And that makes me wonder, though. I wonder what is
think about that either. Ivory using her leverage.
Because, like, right after she got her.
As we mentioned, Kurt Angle on this very special night.
Right after she was
that over
inducted into the Hall of
13,000
Fame.
fans.
Even a little bit before that, she opened up for social media. And she was on it for a little. But then after the Hall of Fame, and maybe 1 or 2 weeks afterwards, it just her page disappeared. Never heard from her again. Maybe she's not that type of person. I mean, it's understandable. It would be nice just to hear from her, knowing that she's alive and still doing well.
Neither one?
Take over by Lita.
Here we go!
Finish.
Pushed up right by Lita. Oh, wow.
And I like the tank that Lita was wearing. The American colors with the peace symbol. And that was, I mean, that was the top. I mean, all tons of fun. She was wearing the top, and that was the top. The American colors, the stars with the peace symbol. That was an awesome addition to her attire.
What a member of the Alliance Lita would be in your dreams. Lita is in my dreams, as would be her membership in the Alliance.
And so that was a really good match. Ivory and Lita that night. And obviously the one who got front row seat for that one was, at that time, Lieutenant Commander Michael Thornton. So as we continue on, now we only got to cover Friday Night SmackDown, and we're going to do this quickly before it gets any later. On this unique edition of the Wrestling Weekend Recap, where we're still talking about, after 20 years, 9/11. And let's jump into SmackDown. SmackDown was a decent show, but I don't know if you catch down with the latest sources. Supposedly, for SmackDown last night, a match was cut off, and I don't know who else was it. I know Selena Vega was involved. She had a distinct outfit that she was going to wear, because it turns out that there's a story behind the outfit she was wearing and what was the reason for her to be a part of a match, even though it got cut off, unfortunately. Turns out that I believe, if I got the facts correctly, but if not, I apologize. She lost a family member due to the incident in 9/11. I believe it was in New York. And she wanted to honor that family member in that match, which is the point of her outfit. And I think it was at the last moment that the match got cut off and was taken out of the card. Because supposedly the segment of Edge and Seth Rollins ran too long. And that's what did it. So it was unfortunate. Hopefully it can get redeemed in some way, because I believe Zelina Vega had a purpose to wanting to be on that night at Madison Square Garden to tell a story, maybe even winning that match, in honor of that family member who unfortunately lost their life at that incident of 9/11. So hopefully they make it up to her, because I think it's wrong that, when she had a plan of wanting to do something and then it doesn't get done, that's gonna look bad on WWE on so many levels with so many people. I mean, there's been people on social media that were on fire, and I don't mean that in a good way, but they were on fire with having to hear about that story. Like, what the hell? They should have given her moment, her match, as a tribute, to that loved one that she lost a long time ago. Despite that, Edge and Seth Rollins had a really good match. I mean, they had an incredible match. And we might as well start with that. Edge and Seth Rollins had a really good match, an incredible match. Far from the match that they had last, which was at SummerSlam.
Right.
I think this one told a little bit of a different story, but something told me that Seth Rollins was going to win this one. So now we have, I believe, 2 wins, one win apiece, and now we got to see a rubber match now. Nonetheless, it was a whole other realm. It was a whole other dive into the match, but Seth Rollins really ended it in a really harsh way, where it took shots to the neck until it led all the way to the curb stomp on the back of the neck. It's like, damn. But it was a heck of a finish. Seth Rollins capitalized on, and that was the match. But I mean, they did a lot of back and forth. That's what had that match go so long, and for one match to have be taken out of the card, though. The segment with the Bloodline and Brock Lesnar, good way to start. We saw the appearance of the Demon. They could have saved it for the following week, actually. But now that we know that the Demon is going to be the one facing the Tribal Chief, now it's like, okay, what is going to happen on the last SmackDown before Extreme Rules? So now we got a big question mark about that. Now we finally got to see the man completely heelish. We finally got to see the man heelish during that contract signing for Extreme Rules. So I expect to see a little bit more dynamic before we actually get to see some physicality in their match for that pay-per-view as well. I think what should have been cut short was that 10-man tag that they had. It was an exciting match, but they could have cut it, a bit. And then also with the interview with Big E. Not to say that he didn't deserve it, but no, he does. Because obviously, Kayla's been on Paul Heyman's ass already for 2 segments, leading into Paul Heyman and Big E crossing each other yet again. And of course, Big E giving the reminder with his briefcase is like, hey, I can cash it on your boy anytime I want. Just letting you know again. An incredible tag team match for the SmackDown tag titles. Usos representing big time. Street Profits raising the bar yet again, trying to raise that bar to another level. They all 4 had a hats off match. I mean, it was really good, but obviously that led to the Bloodline letting everyone know who's boss, who is the dominant faction on SmackDown. Yeah, I mean, I really couldn't pick one. I mean, there were segments that I liked, so I mean, SmackDown was still another good show that they had last night. I don't know if you read through all of those, or if there was just one thing that you liked, or whatnot.
No, actually, I would say the segment with Brock and the Bloodline, that was one, and I agree the match between the rematch, I would say, between Seth and Edge, that was like Like there's like they set the bar at SummerSlam, and all of a sudden they raised it, and that's all the credit at Madison Square Garden. And that pretty much to me was what I consider the most noteworthy of that telecast.
And now we only got one more thing to review, and that is AEW Rampage. Of course, that'll be really short pickings as we continue to remember 911 from 20 years ago. We revisit the episode of SmackDown from September 13th, 2001, days after the incidents already took place, and we're just highlighting our favorite matches that took place that night and hearing some of the heartfelt promos from different superstars. And now we're going to hear from the one and only Texas Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I don't have anything philosophical to say or anything that's going to change the world. I just know that I was given an opportunity to speak about what's happened, so all I have to offer is my opinion. And in my opinion, what I think is the people who did this are nothing but a bunch of complete cowards. My heart goes out to anybody that lost loved ones in this whole ordeal. And I think that tonight, by going back to work with the World Wrestling Federation, I think it's the thing to do. It feels strange, and I've had this bad feeling come over me ever since this whole thing has happened. It doesn't seem like I can shake it. But as a person, and I think as a country, we have to shake it. We have to mourn the losses of people that we knew, but we have to get back. We have to get the gears rolling again, and that's what we're here to do tonight. What happened this past Tuesday was the worst thing that I've ever seen in my life, and I hope that I never ever see anything like this again, except to the people that when we find out who did this, get a payback, because they deserve a payback, and they deserve exactly what they have coming.
Like the words from Stone Cold Steve Austin, native Texan, originally from Victoria, Texas. And like we mentioned, he's been interviewed for the recent documentary that came out, Remembering 9/11, when WWE came back to television. For those of you who have Peacock, hasn't seen it yet, you should check it out. If this is one of the episodes that you like to, dive in and watch time and time again, the actual SmackDown episode of September 13, 2001 is already in the archives on Peacock, and if you have WWE Network on the outside, you can also have access to that as well. But if you don't have Peacock, and you want to see this documentary of Remembering 9/11, it is available on YouTube, because I actually got to see it this morning, and it is in full, nothing edited out. It is in full. If you don't have Peacock, you can check it out on WWE's YouTube channel. They have it available for you to see. It's only half an hour long, maybe 35 minutes long. I say it's worth watching it. It'll take you into the dive of behind the scenes of WWE from when they left the Raw show from San Antonio to get to Houston, Texas for their supposed edition of SmackDown that was supposed to be taped to air for Thursday on UPN at the time. But since with those terrorist acts that took place, obviously WWE had to change the whole game plan, and they decided to do a live television show on Thursday at the Compaq Center that week. So I say it's worthy of watching it. Some of the people that I got interviewed for the documentary were obviously Stone Cold, Booker T, JBL, Kurt Angle, Stephanie McMahon, who right now I have it on pause. Her speech, might as well include it in, since it was never in the highlights of when we saw Access, but I'm pretty sure for her, it was emotional for her as well. So that's one of the highlights that we never got to see on Access, but I think we should bring it in just to hear what she has to say in just a bit. But like I said, that documentary, checked that out last night. It's worth seeing since obviously it has to do with them getting back on the road after the incidents of 9/11. So now let's hear from Stephanie McMahon.
A few years ago, some people tried to destroy my family. They attacked my father's reputation. They attacked my mother's reputation. And they attacked the World Wrestling Federation. They tried to rip us apart, but all they did was make my family stronger. And that's exactly how America feels right now. Because on Tuesday, America was attacked. But America is a united nation. And together, we stand strong. I'm incredibly proud to be an American citizen. And I will stand up for my rights and my freedom.
Couldn't agree more. It's 13,000 sold out the Contact Center live here tonight in Houston.
So we might as well just slide in an extra match, even though like this match honestly was never highlighted, and we know that Dudley Boys are New York through and through, and they're in this 6-man tag with Test. Look at Bubba representing that signage that he has on his taped up. Sign up that he's from Hell's Kitchen, New York City, and then of course there's Robert Ory, who also got interviewed for the documentary. And I forgot that he played with the Lakers at the time, because it said only 7-time NBA champion. So I guess he was with the Lakers the entire time, for those 7 championships. So, like I said, he got interviewed for the documentary of Remembering 9/11. So he said he was glad that he was at that show to get away from reality and to see that, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, he was in the house too. So that also said a lot about Billy Gibbons as well, him being in the house in Houston, Texas. Speaking of Billy Gibbons, he was seen in WWF shows. He was seen in WCW shows. It's like, okay, I guess he was there. Doesn't matter where there's a wrestling show in town, I guess he's there. And if he gets spotted by cameras. So that's what's cool. So at least they had a couple of celebrities in hand for that. Yes.
And Regal, certainly another in the line of being unorthodox.
So they're facing
reminds me of Rob Van Dam.
William Regal, Tajiri,
Oh, William Regal is a
Scotty
physical commissioner,
Tuhan.
but he's in the ring right now with Devon
He's
Dudley.
with Tori
That's a
Wilson.
whole other story because Devon does not respect authority.
Well, you would know that.
You're right, because I don't respect authority either.
Whoa! What the heck? I think Scotty's too hyped up. He's overexcited. He wants to get in at all costs.
I just don't understand this.
Just hold it, Scotty. Just hold it.
I know people that have asked her out 15, 16 times.
Are you okay, man? Yeah, he bounced on that lower part of the rope too hard. Jeez, these kicks obviously don't match with Test's hard clothesline from the outside. The man who had immunity. Yeah, total immunity. The one guy that never got fired once the alliance was there.
A couple of years ago, just standing there, and then he's got to come out of funk, and he has been impressive. Very impressive, I should have. This morning, you like
something to get up, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
This shows you how Stephanie McMahon Helmsley knows exactly what she's doing. Look how she has motivated this man to become a great talent, and in comes the mayor of Dudleyville, Bubba Ray Dudley.
Bubba Ray Dudley, about 325 pounds, hammering away on the new United States champion, Tajiri. A really looking forward to that matchup between two great athletes as Bubba Ray hammers down to Jerry, who's been isolated far from the except he does get pulled apart, slammed by Bubba Ray. And Bubba got to go up in no man's land, which is just outside the city limits of Dudleyville. I think Bubba 325 needs to maintain that ground attack. And here comes Scotty too high. Big size mismatch here with Kevin, but Scotty using his quickness and resourcefulness to defend himself here.
Oh, he better use more than that. He better be abusive yet elusive.
Scotty too high works to the corner. And ran right into the Bubba Ray ran right into Scotty's feet.
Yeah, Cuey's waiting for it. Just pulls him off.
But Tess, I put a stop to that. William Regal back in the ring.
He no longer lets you get a bottle of tequila. Now the Dudleys have the commissioner exactly where they want him. Up close, Devon.
There's no what's up, but wait a minute. Missed on Devon. It all happened with the ref's back turn. With the ref's back turn. Springboard elbow.
Up and down, Big Bubba running. It's a Jerry taking off his feet. By Tess. It's a real difference maker.
I missed the Jerry. I wonder what's up with him. Uh-oh. It is time for the WRN Oh, and that hard boot from Test. That's it. 1, 2, 3.
Sound effects by the boost of Test.
It's like he's playing pool and he's about to hit a hard ass white ball to the 8 to conclude the damn pool game. My goodness, man, that was absolutely crazy. So we added in something extra because normally, like when we watch X's time and time again, it wasn't a part of the highlights. So we threw in Stephanie McMahon's speech. We threw in that extra match of the 6-man tag onto this edition of the Wrestling Weekend Recap, as we still talk about remembering 9/11 from 20 years ago, the events that took place, plus as we watch back the SmackDown episode from September 13, 2001, when they became the only sports entertainment group that got back on to do a show live on television when everything else was shutting down in the world. As far as the attacks on DC, Pennsylvania, New York. We heard and we highlighted Lillian Garcia's rendition of the national anthem. Now we're going to get to hear what she had to say at that time.
Well, to say the least, this has been a real roller coaster of a week, and especially because I live in New York City. I have loved ones there, and I'm just really fortunate and very glad that a specific one didn't get to go to his meeting at 8:30 in the morning that he was supposed to be at the Twin Towers. And so I thank God for that. And I still don't know about a lot of my friends. I have, we'll be finding out, I guess, little by little. I pray for everybody there.
And might as well make it a quickie. Now we're going to hear from Farouk, the other half of Bradshaw, his tag team partner in the APA, because I also dig his speech as well. Let's hear what he had to say at that time.
You know, it's kind of hard to put into words, and I'm sure it's been repeated, over and over, but there's no way you can describe such a horrific act of terrorism and cowardness of what has happened, And my heart, my best wishes, and my deepest sympathies go out to the families that have lost loved ones in this terrible act of terrorism. But I know this, I know that throughout it all, that the American people, they will prevail in this, and we will come through this. And I think it's time that we show these cowards that we mean business.
See, I dig his speech. I just dig his speech. You know, right? You know, short, right to the point. Even though, of course, we heard Bradshaw's earlier, how angry and passionate, and of course, led to the point where it's like, yeah, we're gonna find you eventually, and eventually, you know, the American soldiers, they did, and it took a long while because wars are slow and steady. It's never anything quick. It's all about having a plan and making sure that that plan is effective and that it goes through. Because having to hear about, of course, you know, Osama, it's like, is this for real? Like, is this really over? But like, nothing's really over until you know, even a president would state that it's over. You know, because even our president now, Joe Biden, he says that the war's over after getting, you know, the American people out of Afghanistan, at least the ones that got away, you know, that got out the first time. But now he has to go back and retrieve, you know, what's left of the American people from over there to bring them back home. So it, you know, it takes time, and then we don't know if there's going to be another war. So that's what I'm saying. Everybody has to do their due diligence. Don't drop your guard down, because you never know what the heck can happen. So now we're gonna near conclusion. We're already past our normal shutdown time, but let's talk, Jade, about Rampage. It was an hour show. They had 4 segments of it. It was incredible. Loved the match with Pac and Andrade, the one that should have happened on All Out, but I'm glad they decided for Rampage to do it. It was an incredible show for both of these guys. Hats off to both. Andrade's win against Pac, but of course at what expense, even though that got Chavo ixnayed from Andrade's group. I still believe that this has got to be some plan concocted to fool with the Lucha Brothers, because they ended up being out there just to see what the heck was in front of their eyes. At the end, Chavo paid huge from Andrade, and then even out to Pac, because he even choked them out with that one submission move of his. But I still believe this is all a plan. This is all a ruse. So I don't believe that Chavo's just out of this group already after the short time that Andrade made his debut with AEW. And I think you'll agree with me. All the matches have been, the whole show has been pretty good. We saw that Sting and Darby Allin finally answered to the challenge of Tully Blanchard, even though him and Sean Spears stood one step ahead of them, attacked Darby Allin from behind like the coward that he was, the perfect zero. And obviously now we're going to see a little tidbit with Sting and Tully Blanchard. The only thing I got to say is hopefully it doesn't take away from the other young guys. I mean, you know, Tully Blanchard had his moments. Sting, as much as I love and respect this man, you know, he had his moments too, but let's not take away from the rivalry of Spears and Darby Allin, since they're going to be in a match really soon. I think that's going to happen for Dynamite this Wednesday. Love, from what stemmed out of Wednesday, the six-woman tag that involved Dr. Britt Baker, the AEW Women's World Champion, Reba, Jamie Hayter, as they took on Ruby Soho, Rio, and let me get this. Ruby Soho, Rio, and mention it.
Chris Statlander.
Chris Statlander, yes. obviously, I don't know if this is already the end with Chris Stanlander and the Doctor, even though the Doctor already has a challenger for her championship, which is Ruby Soho, who won the Casino Battle Royale, the Women's Casino Battle Royale from All Out. And they had a great match too, and that's building Ruby Soho for the challenge, and as she got the pin and win for her team, along with the team. Pillman Jr., Brian Pillman Jr. had his match with one half of the Acclaimed, Max Caster. And they had a good going on, and of course, Max Caster being that rapper son of a B that he is, and they really gave it to each other. But they were out to look to embarrass Brian Pillman Jr. in his hometown. But came another hometown hero, and that was Jon Moxley, and he assisted with Pillman Jr. and gave the Acclaimed Entertainment a dose of real medicine, the way that the Sin Cities can only give to them. And that's pretty much Rampage. It was another good show. So we all that next week. Obviously, the last week for Raw and SmackDown leading to Extreme Rules. Another exciting week for AEW, for Dynamite, and Rampage. NXT, now we're looking to see if this new revamped NXT can actually fly. Even though we're already looking forward to what's set for this upcoming Tuesday. The marriage of the wedding of Index, the match with Raquel Gonzalez and La Huera Loca. Looking forward to that. And then, of course, there's other couple matches that have already been added. So looking forward to that. So we'll see what stems into this revamp of NXT.
And not to mention Impact Wrestling, because next Saturday, it's all coming up. That's right, Victory Road. It's all coming up, man. What to expect this Thursday that's going to lead to next Saturday?
Yeah, next Saturday already Victory Road. That's already this quick. The 10-man tag. The main event for Impact, Cage's team going up against Ace Austin's team. That's going to be really good. A lot of exciting things are going to happen this week for sure. So that's the end of our reviews for that. So now we're going to conclude this show with the main event of the night, which is Rhino representing the Alliance going up against the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle.
Weighing in at 275 pounds, Rhino. Here is the proud native of the bad streets of Detroit, Michigan. Rhino, the first man to go all over the rock since WrestleMania.
And Rhino is such an impressive athlete. That little help in scoring that pinfall victory, but there's no option here. Kurt Angle has to focus on Rhino tonight, but no doubt that Kurt Angle knows the days are.
There wasn't even much of pyro that night, except for the little pyro that Kurt Angle had, and even he didn't pay attention to that. All he had was just the passion that he had for that night, showing why he is the Olympic gold medalist and why he is one of the best wrestlers in the world at that time.
Kurt Angle certainly abused on Monday night by Stone Cold Steve Austin. While to the floor from the stage, and Angle fighting back. Angle with that left elbow, the heavily take. His body is sore. But Kurt Angle is here to compete because he's better than me. Cross body and a near fall on the powerhouse Rhino.
Kurt Angle, you can talk about he's an Olympic gold medalist, but Kurt Angle should not be in the ring tonight. He was taken down by Stone Cold Steve Austin on Monday. Kurt Angle should have the night off.
Angle was taken down, but he refused to stay down. And Angle certainly with his hands full here. And look at the impact there, moving that security wall. Was Rhino, he's so thick, so strong.
He most certainly is Rhino.
He's still wrestling to this day. No part of BBD.
This match develops a more advantage. One would his son Rhino Burnett. Based on Angle's
Hopefully,
physical condition
Rhino's
coming into
comeback
this thing.
does AI for Eric Young and the rest of Fighting
Fans
Bulls.
joining us here tonight live. And certainly our fans here in Houston who have turned out and just and also numbers approximately 13,000 fans on hand, completely sold out here tonight as Rhino has Kurt Angle up on those shoulders. Look at the old airplane spin and the takedown by Rhino. Could be over here. Rhino maybe a little high on the body, could reach back and hook the leg. Huge crowd here in the Compact Center. We're glad you're with us wherever you may be. Thanks for inviting us into your homes here tonight. And we hope that we brought you a little bit of entertainment here tonight.
Rhino was not a little too high on the body. Rhino was putting the pressure on the neck of Kurt Angle. The neck that has been weakened by Stone Cold. The neck that was broken in the Olympics in 1996.
Angle fighting back here now. Our hands by Angle, the reverse by Rhino. And Rhino here, turning over knee. There's a cradle. And Rhino's the strong legs we mentioned. Able to put the kick out on a nice, hard, belly-to-belly suplex on the sore body of Kurt Angle by Rhino. Going low for Kurt Angle. It's a submission here. Here it comes! Angle sidestep on the board. No! Angle up with the Olympic slam. Counter. Now what a knockdown, double knockdown by both men. Looking for the clothesline. They look, they found it, and both going down.
Well, this is where the beating that Kurt Angle took on Monday night once again. Kurt Angle. Rhino is the fresher of the two. Rhino is the healthier of the two. And Rhino doesn't have Stone Cold Steve Austin on his mind. I'll say it for you. Look at that. Thank you, JR.
Angle's making his way back out. Scores to the right hand. Again on another right. Angle that quick competitive spirit. Yes, he wants to be the WWF champion. But Angle's hands are full here with this man reach Rhino. And now Rhino trying for the suplex. It's countered. Beautiful German suplex by Kurt Angle. The waistlock. And look at the impact.
Oh my God, how is Rhino still conscious?
Rhino trying to fight his way out of it. Angle, his hands are broken there. And another belly-to-belly overhead suplex by Angle. Should be over here, but it's not. And Rhino reaches down and kicks out. This Rhino is so tough.
I can't believe Rhino's still conscious.
Rhino in that government view toughness level. And a spine buster by Rhino. And Angle's body got to be hurt. After what happened on Kurt Angle Monday night at the hands of Stone Cold Steve Austin, the reigning WWF champion.
Here we go. Now we're going to get to see it. Gore! It's over. Good night, Kurt Angle. What a great victory for Rhino. 1, 2, 3.
No.
No, not three. Not three. Angle. Check the right shoulder out. And Rhino can't believe it. And Rhino goes right back to work. Those six are getting into the date with the official. And Rhino going right back to work on Angle. Angle fighting back. Got to be running on strictly adrenaline here. Angle counters.
Angle
The Angle slam. Angle got the Angle slam. The leg is hooked tightly. And it's over. Kurt Angle reaching down tonight on this extraordinary night where we have come into your home live on one of the most tragic weeks in American history. But Kurt Angle reaching down now has one thing on his mind, Paul.
Right, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the WWF champion and the champ of the Alliance. But Kurt Angle took his chance at Stone Cold.
USA, and we here at WWF are proud to lead the way on the choose assemblage of fans that go on to the tragedy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get back to living on the line at the
Jay boys, if they led the way, and like I said, hats off to them for doing so. We always look back at this episode vividly because, hey, that's 9/11, and obviously whenever 9/11 always comes up, we always watch this episode religiously because, hey, you know, we always look back at what happened with the attack that happened in America, and we look at who stepped up to the plate and decided to, you know, do something about it, entertain us, and we can move forward with our lives as we continue to live our lives the American way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we know that this has been a long one. Normally, our recap episodes would be no more than maybe at least 2 hours. I'm pretty sure we've overdone our 2 hours, but hey, this is a special occasion. You know, this is 9/11. I guess until next year for when we do something similar like this, maybe. Nonetheless, thank you very much for joining us. We hope that you can join us next Saturday for another edition, our normal edition of the Wrestling Weekend Recap, where we bring to you the good, the bad, and the latest inside news, what takes place with Monday Night Raw, NXT, AEW Dynamite, Impact Wrestling, Friday Night SmackDown, and AEW Rampage. Until then, if you haven't been vaccinated, what are you waiting for? It don't hurt to get vaccinated. It is the way to go. We've done so, and we can tell you from the heart straight up, it's always best to do it vaccinated. Until then, if you're not, keep safe, mask up, and I say this with the capital letters of my heart: peace and love worldwide, especially on a day like today. It's already Sunday. Let's enjoy what's left of the weekend. For the one and only Jade, I am Aceman. We hope to see you next week. Another episode of the Wrestling Weekend Recap. Enjoy the weekend, guys. Have a good night, everyone. We'll see you then.